Ready? I think we're ready. I think we're live. Could be live. We do this every time. Move to new software. Don't know if you're live or not. Hi. If we are, hi, everybody. Hi. Nice to see you. Oh,
Hey,
hi. Oh,
hey.
hey. Welcome to the Five Stack, everybody. My name is Dean. That is Zev. You can find us every day at 3 o'clock right here. Usually every day at 3 o'clock. Christmas is no different. We're animals. We just keep going. It doesn't stop. The news doesn't stop. The news about Trump doesn't stop. The news about NATO doesn't stop. The news about Ukraine doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going and going. It's like one of those mirrors you look into where you got a mirror behind you and the mirror just kind of keeps going. You can't see how far the mirror goes. You know what I'm saying? Like where you got two
What?
mirrors
No, I
looking at each
don't know
other
what
and
you're
you're like,
saying. What are you
oh well,
talking
you got to
about,
try
Dean?
that. You got to try that. You got to try that. You got to put a mirror in front of another mirror,
Oh,
and
like when you sit at the
you just
barber and
it
there's a
just
mirror
goes
behind
forever.
you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Same thing.
infinity. It's what they call
Infinity
infinity.
is
Yes.
we're in the infinity era, and we've got five major breaking news stories to get to today. DeanBlundell.substack.com. That's where you can find me. Zev Shalev can be found at narrative.org, some of the world's most incredible writing. And before we get started, speaking in investigative reporting on the Epstein stuff, I'm noticing some people, they will go nameless, happened to Lev, happened to you, where I read your stuff and then I read your stuff that someone else does where they rip it through AI and present it as their own stories.
Yeah, it happens. And, I mean, I don't know what to say about it. In some ways, great. People are like, you know, iterating my stuff, and that's good. But I'm a little concerned that it also could be a bigger thing. People in this age that we're in are going to do a lot of disinformation in the next few days. People have to be very alert as Epstein comes out, as all these files come out. A lot of people are going to try and muddy the waters by taking a little bit of truth and then mixing it with a whole lot of spin and lies. And
Mm.
you just, you don't always know who you can trust. And so these people who are doing these ripoffs, I mean, good for them for doing ripoffs if they can make a go of it, but not good for them if they're basically just trying to be part of this disinformation effort, which I really think is a real thing that we're going to face in the next few weeks as Trump and Russia try to preserve themselves. They're desperately going to try fight the narrative with whatever it is they can throw at it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and you know what? And if I could just add on top of that too, is I mean, you've done some incredible work over the past 10 years, specifically recently giving people context with the Greatest Heist series. And so this weekend, farting
here's
around
Lev, by the
on
way.
Substack. What's that?
Here's Lev, by the way.
Oh
Hey,
my guy.
how are you?
Yeah. Okay, we're talking about how
Hey
people are
guys,
ripping both of you off. By the way,
Can you hear us,
but
Lev?
I,
do you see me?
Yeah,
yeah,
you got
yeah,
to put
we can
yourself
see
in
you
the middle. You got to move yourself a little bit more to the middle of the frame because you're getting a bit
or
cut
not.
off, or
Do
not,
whatever.
or do
Do
whatever.
whatever. Do
You can
whatever
just
you want. You want to be top right, top left. It's up to you. You're Lev Parnas.
yeah, you can be
Um,
whatever you want to be.
but I'm reading this story that sounded eerily familiar to yours, and I'm not going to out the person because it doesn't matter. They don't have a ton of followers. I know they're trying to make a go of it, and I know there's a bunch of people that are bogeying work. But then I'm watching and venerable group of guys over at Midas Touch. I'm watching them do their thing, and they're basically just kind of recounting what Zev said that morning or Lev said that morning
Yeah,
without
it happens.
giving him any credit. And I'm like, folks, one thing, and listen, no sour grapes, as you pointed out. I've seen my stuff get lifted as well. Doesn't matter as long as you're getting the information. But the one thing that I think, and you kind of pointed out, everybody needs to be aware of over the next little bit is people that are going to try and take some of that work that we do that is well sourced, that is fact based, twist it, turn it, add a narrative around it, or just steal it all together and do a piss poor job of something that we originally did, which is fine. Like I said, as long as you get the information. But heads on a swivel this week, especially when it comes to disinformation, when it comes to out and out lies, when it comes to taking really solid work and bastardizing it to make it sound kind of familiar, because that's what we're seeing. MAGA, Russia, people that have terrible, moral compasses do to us on a daily basis, and they're trying to do it to you. So heads on a swivel. If you see a check mark, great. Always vet the information. Always fact check the information and always try and come back to the source. We're never going to lie to you. We're never going to rip off other people's work. We're never going to do that stuff. But what we will do is we will call it out when we see it. And I think it's kind of time to pay the piper, if you will.
This has been a thing about independent media. No one ever credits us. No one ever credits the independent journalists. They always take our news and then they pick it up and they make it their own. And that's, in some ways just the way it's always been. But because of the environment we're in, everyone needs to pay extra special attention to where their sources are, getting their information. And
Hmm.
if stuff isn't well sourced and isn't factually based, you dismiss it, because the way disinformation works is they take a kernel of truth and then they surround it with a whole bunch of lies. So there's always a little bit of truth in whatever disinformation exists, and then there's a bunch of spin around it. So you got to be, it sounds truthful. There's something to hook it onto, but a lot of the stuff is just isn't
Yeah.
isn't verifiable or isn't factually based. So it's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
need to be really aware of. I'm surprised, that it includes some of these other guys, some of these guys we've all begun to rely on. But also, the independent media system is becoming an ecosystem. I mean, Lev Parnas is a big name in that media system. Dean Blundell is a big name in that media system. And so we're in the zeitgeist a lot more. I guess it's not so surprising that some people are lifting stories, or at least, but without credit, is really annoying when it's
Well,
done.
I couldn't believe it. Lev, you can kind of speak to this. Lev Parnas, Lev remembers everybody go subscribe to his Substack. Lev, you can kind of speak to this because something you and I discussed at Coffee and Tea with Lev and Dean on Saturday magically appeared on the Midas Touch Network later on that afternoon.
Lev, you there?
Can you hear us?
Do you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear you now.
Well, you were
Can you hear
breaking up.
us?
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, now
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, now I hear you perfectly. Yeah, you were breaking up. I heard you saying something about lemon and coffee, and then
Yeah, Coffee and
am I
Tea
in
with
the
Lev and
center?
Dean
Can
on
you see
Saturday
me?
appeared on almost verbatim what you had told us about Ukraine. Appeared almost verbatim on Midas Touch later on that afternoon, Saturday.
Uh, Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That is interesting to hear that. But today is was an interesting morning. I woke up with a lot of subscribers sending me text messages and DMs, basically asking me if there's a problem with Midas Touch, and I wasn't aware because I thought everything was fine, and we're all on the same team. I asked what the problem was, but they said that there's Midas keeps reporting on Ukraine, never ever, talking about me, never bringing me up there, and what was the problem? I reached out to them. I reached out to Ben. I reached out to Brett. I have not heard back from them yet. What it is, but I'm going to tell it, the way it is. I want everybody. It's not just a Midas touch. Every single reporter out there, I don't care that they go use the information and go out there, because that's the point of us giving the information, to make sure that it's spread.
Mhm.
But there's a thing called, normal, what do you go, if you're going to outsource your sources, and if you're going to go out there and you want to give the public, if you're saying that you want to give them the truth and information, you got to go out of the cabal, out of your little circle of people that you guys support each other, everybody support, and just give the same. Because what's happening is all of these independent channels are becoming the problem of their own environment. What they try to go away from the foxes makes them the same thing. It's they're becoming an echo chamber of their own environment. The bottom line is, I'm going to tell each and every one of them is this: if they're not reporting the stories that we're breaking, that means that they, for some reason, feel that they might not be true, or there might be some issue with them. So then I challenge them to come out and then tell me why they're not doing it. Because the people deserve to hear the stories. If they're real journalists, and if it's real journalism, they should be breaking stories about what we're talking about, what's happening on the inside, and not regurgitating some ambassador that was ambassador to the Ukraine 20 years ago and has some an opinion. Like all of us have opinion. He hasn't been there, doesn't even know the people for 20 years, but they're going to get him on because he has credentials. This shit has to stop. And I'm challenging each and every one of them, the Midas Touch, Acosta, any one of them. They want to keep calling themselves independent journalism, then you better come out there and tell me why you're not reporting on what we're breaking, because I'm going to call you guys out every time. Because if you, this is news, and it's already disgusting that subscribers have to be coming out and asking me why they're not coming out. I don't know, guys. I don't know why they're not reporting the real news and want to just give you opinions about what everybody else is doing it. But we have the real news. We're going to keep pushing it, and we're going to expanding it. And I'm not going to allow this, to happen, because we're going to have them explain it to every single one of us. Why are they not reporting it? Because if I'm lying, or if this is not real news, or if this is not accurate, come out and then show the facts. Because I have all the receipts, I have the facts. I've been reporting on stuff for the past 6 months. They have been breaking every single day. You have people like Joy Reid bringing me on. You have Wajida Heed bringing me on. And then you have some of the biggest powerful platforms on the left that just refuse to do it. So you ask yourself why? Why are they not expanding it, the mission, and trying to stop democracy?
Are you
I
talking?
don't
You're
have
talking
any
about the
paywalls, but
independent
they all
media.
have plenty of paywalls.
You're talking specifically about the independent media crowd, or like the about the networks themselves, the big broadcast networks. You're
Like
talking
all of
specifically.
them.
Oh, um,
Yeah, I think all of them. I think that's kind of what he's saying, right, Lev?
yeah.
It's we're there's a reason why we're up underneath the floorboards of mainstream media, and we're coming up underneath, and we're going to get them. It's because they're not reporting the things that we do, and when they do, they take that information and they pass it off as their own information, which is
Mhm.
fascinating to me, right? Like watching Lev repeat what he repeated the other day, and then seeing it kind of appear on Midas, but not really get into it. And then it's and listen, they do great work there. They're got great intentions. Da, 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 da. But what Lev's talking about, we've been yammering for the last month and a half about what's going on in Ukraine. Nobody's covering it. Nobody
Yeah.
talks about it like
That's
it needs to be
exactly.
talked about, right? Like nobody talks about it.
And that's because they're choosing not to, or you think that they're just not choosing to credit you with it? Is it the crediting that's the issue, or the fact that it's not being covered? I don't know if we're going to get Lev. I think he's all. I don't know if he can hear us. Um, you know what, Lev? Why don't you get situated? And
I'm
oh,
actually I'm I'm about to get into the car, so it'll
okay,
be better hear me there
Okay.
because I'm
Well, yeah,
walking
we'll
and
we'll
I'm
have you
gonna. If
back
you
another
lose me,
time.
I'll
It's
okay,
all good.
reconnect right
okay.
now.
All right,
Okay,
all
buddy.
right.
Yeah, you go do your thing, and we'll talk again. Appreciate it. Love you,
Okay,
pal. Talk to you
take care.
soon. He brings up, but what he brought up, and we were chatting about it this morning, and then I saw something that you put out yesterday. Is listen, we're not here to aggregate everybody's hopes and dreams when it comes to information. We're here to do the job that we do. We happen to like each other a lot, so we work well together. We happen to tell the truth, and we happen to put a lot of work into informing and affirming you, right? Like that's really what we're here to do. And we are you. We love it. This is not going to stop. But the time, and it's funny because like on Saturday we did 2 hours of content that was so compelling, that was
Yeah, I
Ukraine
watched it. It was
forward.
great. You guys did a
It
great
was
job.
Well,
Really.
thanks, dude. But I scoured mainstream media after that.
Mm.
They didn't cover any of the shit we talked about, and we had thousands of people watch that thing. And I'm like, there's a problem here. And so Lev calls me this morning, and he's like, "Hey, did you see this thing?" And he's got people commenting, subscribers coming to him. Like, we get news from you. We don't get any. We don't even get a sniff of the news that you break on any mainstream media channel. And when they do cover it, they cover it in a small, like in a microcosm of the conversation. And then what they do is they just don't send anybody any credit for it. They don't say, "Hey, this more." Like I have never in my life, and it's funny because as soon as Lev brought it up and I saw your post this weekend about people stealing your content, I was like, man, oh man, oh man. It's like the people on the front line, and they're doing content that are doing real, truth telling, sourced, factual information on what's going on with Trump, with fascism, with Ukraine, with the border, with ICE, what he's trying to do to the United States of America. And I get it. I get CBS is scared shitless. I get that Barry Weiss is the head of CBS. I get why that exists. I get why they want to buy all these other programs. But if you ever wondered how sick America was, all you have to do is watch what we do on a weekly basis, and then try to cross-reference that shit on mainstream media in the United
Oh, it
States.
just
It
doesn't
never
exist. It
fucking
doesn't exist.
happens.
I mean, what we cover is so different from what they cover. It's just shocking to me how different the news is when you get it on the Five Stack or when you get it from you guys than it is on the networks. It just doesn't even. It's not even the same planet sometimes. I mean, it really isn't. And we should get into today's top five right now if we can, because
Mhm.
it's a lot of breaking news. And I was going to get into the CIA story. We'll get to that in a second. But first, the breaking news out of LA that's really got everyone talking is director Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, found stabbed to death in their Brentwood home yesterday afternoon. Their 32-year-old son, Nick, has been arrested and he's being held on $4 million of bail. Reiner was 78 years old. He directed The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, Stand By Me, and Misery. Such classic movies, a generation of American film classics that we all remember growing up with. He was also one of Hollywood's most outspoken critics of Donald Trump. Billy Crystal and Larry David arrived at the house after police made the initial call, with neighbors saying Crystal looked devastated. Trump attacked Reiner on Truth Social, even as the family grief, blaming Trump derangement syndrome. And you're looking at a live picture now outside Reiner's home, where they were found dead. He and his wife were found dead after their son allegedly stabbed them to death. The son was obviously dealing with a lot of issues, including addiction and homelessness over the periods of time. And it's an issue that they both discussed at length, the father and son, because they worked on a movie together about Nick's addiction issues. And it's been a real moment for Hollywood as they wake up with this real American tragedy, this devastating tragedy. Because Rob Reiner, not only talented, I mean, brilliantly talented, known to all those movies ring a bell with all of us, but also an activist for the liberal causes and democratic causes.
Yeah, for democracy. I mean, that's one of the things that Rob Reiner came to the forefront in the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years is his activism, right? It's probably the most important thing is that he loved humanity. He advocated for democracy, absolutely hated Donald Trump. And this is really tragic for a couple of reasons. Rob Reiner really changed movies for a lot of different people. Rob Reiner, if you remember, I watched him with Carol O'Connor the first time we met him in All in the Family.
Oh, yeah.
Meathead, Michael Stivic was his name. Yeah. And I mean, just legendary character, legendary film producer, legendary human being whose son Nick had terrible addiction issues, as you pointed out, very, very troubled, emotionally troubled. The police, so two issues here, obviously the incredible sadness and the outpouring of love and support for the family. He's got brothers and sisters, and of course, Mr. and Mrs. Reiner, who are both deceased. They've got kids from other relationships as well. So I mean, the grief is incredible, and just he was a giant in the entertainment industry, in the film industry, and was loved by everybody, absolutely everybody. It was interesting because he did Stand By Me. Jerry O'Connell put out a tweet this morning, and it just brought me to tears. Yeah. I mean, his credits alone. When you think about the kind of movies he made movies about supporting each other, loving each other, finding love, finding friendship, finding hope. That was really Rob Reiner's secret sauce. That was why he was incredible. And then, you fast forward to yesterday at 3 o'clock, call comes in, and, Rob Reiner and his wife are found dead in their home. They take their son into questioning. He admits that, from what I've read, this is just, and hearsay to this point, he basically admitted that, I killed mom and dad. So, that in itself is just this incredible tragedy. Guy didn't have any enemies, not one, until Donald Trump tweeted about it this morning. And I'm going to read this to you. This man is so fucking sick. What he said about Rob Reiner in this True Social post, I'll read it to you in just a second here. I know we've got it on the screen. Follow along. It's too small for my tiny eyes. So Trump tweets this out because Rob Reiner was outspoken in how much he hated Donald Trump and his fascist ways and what he's trying to do to the United States of America. Very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, was neither of those things, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as the Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump. This is him writing in the fucking third person again. With obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all the goals and expectations of greatness, and the golden age of America is upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Let's just tear that apart real quick.
Yeah, this guy's not well.
That is mental illness. That is sickness. That is a deranged, completely off his rocker, dementia-laden, angry, narcissistic, nihilistic asshole from another dimension of assholes. What he just said is that he was killed by somebody who was sick of how much he hated me. Donald Trump just made this whole thing about himself. This whole thing where his son killed his family because he was mentally and physically unwell, because he's a drug addict. Killed two giants, people who were beloved, watching the outpouring of emotion. Talk to Steve Schmidt. He knows Rob well. Malcolm Nance. watching them outpour their emotions about how everybody would invite us into the Reiner home and we'd sit around the coffee table in the kitchen and we'd sit and laugh and talk. They were lovely people. They wanted to talk about politics and humanity. They wanted to talk about things that made America better. He was absolutely deeply involved in causes to keep America a democratic, free country. And Donald Trump makes this about himself and says he was killed because one of his own fans who was sick and tired of listening to Rob Reiner talk about Trump probably killed him because he drove people crazy obsessing about how much he hated Trump. And then at the end of it, he's like, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. I have been mad at Donald Trump before. I've been mad at him for a long time just because he's so fucked in the head. I am furious. And the entire GOP establishment is furious. The entire Washington is furious. His fans and MAGA furious with what he just said about Rob Reiner. Furious. And he's refusing to take it down and apparently has been asked to take it down by his own family members. And he told them all, no. This is why you have to remove him from office. All the other stuff, yes. The turn to fascism, yes. The destruction of the U.S. economy, absolutely. His national security strategy, saying goodbye to the EU, calling Canada a vassal state, absolutely. It's pure insanity. This is complete detachment from reality and not just antisocial behavior. This is the machinations of a guy who has the mind of a serial killer at this point.
Absolutely.
That's what this is.
He's living in a fantasy world. He's living in a world that he created on his own, that he believes is the answer to everything. But he is not moored in reality at all. I mean, there is no facts here to base his comments on. And it's not just this case, it's everything. This is a president that is so out of touch. And for a country that went wild about Joe Biden, falling asleep or whatever a couple of times, what's happening right now is completely an extreme of that. I mean, you've got someone who's not only, dementia laden, as you point out, but also extremist. I mean, he is nuts. He is a Nazi. He's a fascist. He's a guy who can do anything and will do anything in order to save his own wealth, probably to save his own life, but not his family's life. But it's all about money. It's all about power. There's nothing else about him. And it's all about self-aggrandizing. So you've got a person who's a real threat, just by existing, is a threat to the national security of America. Yeah. And we can wait. I guess people think that we can wait, but we can't. There is not exactly, what do we want to see next? Like, what's the thing that finally?
Dude, it's 11 months. We've been dealing with this for 11 months.
Yeah,
he has 3 more years.
Yeah, it has to happen. We all know it has to happen. So my question is, why isn't it happening now? I mean, what do we need to see happen? Do we need to see the U.S. dollar crater completely? Do we need to see us starting a war with a country that doesn't deserve to be fought a war with? Do we need to see 22 million people, whatever it is that's going to be this week, lose their health care and start dying on the streets of America? Do we need to see what's happening now with Reiner? I mean, let's face it, the addiction issue is a big issue in America, but this man is fighting a war on drugs against Venezuela, not against where the war should be fought, which is against the lack of treatments and lack of effective treatments against people who are suffering from addiction in America. That's what the real war on drugs is. And that's why Rob Reiner died. He didn't die because someone in Venezuela loaded some drugs onto a boat and shipped it off to somewhere in Africa. That's not how he died. He died because something went wrong with our healthcare system that drove his son completely nuts and that couldn't be rescued because of his drug addiction and his homelessness. And these poor people who are supremely talented and real standouts in the arts world and have really blazed the trail for democratic rights in America and the world. And they're dead today because of this country's failure and this president's failure to address the issues. And the issues are that there's a war on drugs inside America. There's a addiction nightmare that's building around America, and that a lot of people are suffering silently, and they need to be helped. And
well said. Yeah.
This Rob Reiner situation is just an example of what he's well known. Yeah, it's going to be splashed all over the front pages of every newspaper. You know how many other families go through this? You know how many other families have a crazy addicted son or daughter that is doing unspeakable things, that he's threatening them, that is engaged in all sorts of harmful, malign, activities for themselves and other people. It's millions.
You know, this hits close to home. My eldest, who's incredibly healthy now, wonderful boy, young man, he's in his mid-20s, went to rehab a couple of times. And what a lot of people don't understand is how heavy criticism hits when something bad happens to someone you love when it comes to addiction, like especially if they're in trouble. Now, I want you to imagine that scale of pain, okay? When your son is helpless, or it does something like this, steals your car, kills your parents, level of pain. And then I want you to imagine the guy who's supposed to be the comforter in chief of the United States of America mocking them, laughing at them, putting out a truth social tweet saying, whatever, someone who loves me probably killed him because he just drove everybody crazy with how much he hated me. He's got a crippling brain disease. He was a struggling movie producer, just demeaned him. The guy hadn't been dead for 12 hours. And his son was arrested for his murder. Oh, and his wife was also murdered by his son. That's the comforter in chief. And when you love somebody, like, I mean, the Reiners have a massive family. Carl Reiner was his dad, great actor, by the way. And when you love somebody and they die, and the president of the United States takes time out of his morning to mock you, to mock the death of that loved one, whose life was cut short at the age of 78, along with his wife's at the age of 68, because his drug-addicted son allegedly murdered them in a fit of rage. Trump's response? This is a Kennedy Center honoree, by the way, Rob Reiner. Trump's response? Whatever, he's dead. He had a crippling brain disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. It's probably why he's dead. Drove everybody crazy. Anyway,
he's gleeful about it. He's actually gleeful about the fact that one of his so-called political enemies is dead.
Murdered. And was murdered, not dead. Murdered in his own home by his own son.
Gleeful about it. He actually thinks it's funny. He thinks it's appropriate to make jokes about it. And, just to highlight the difference between this thinking that Donald Trump has and the thinking that people like Rob Reiner had. Here's Rob Reiner talking to Piers Morgan a while ago about Charlie Kirk's death.
When you first heard about the murder of Charlie Kirk, what was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Well, horror, absolute horror. And I unfortunately saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, at the memorial they had, was exactly right. And totally, I believe, I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful and absolutely, she forgave his assassin, and I think that is admirable.
That's how you react to the death of someone who's a political enemy or perceived political enemy. You don't put out a tweet or Truth Social like Donald Trump did, making fun of this great man, and also a legend in there's not a single person alive today that has not been touched by one of these movies. When Harry Met Sally, how many people know that scene in the Cat's Delicatessen? I think it's that. I think it's Cat's Deli. That scene is so famous, that orgasm scene. And then there's A Few Good Men. I mean, just to think about that incredible movie with who was it who played
Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise.
Amazing in it. One of the best performances ever. Stand By Me, you've talked about it already.
One of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah.
Seminal movie for anyone growing up in the last 50 years would know Stand By Me is just one of those beautiful American stories told. And Misery, the Kathy Bates story. I mean, there's so many amazing classics. And Donald Trump is obviously a part of that fabric. He grew up in that same time. He had, he's experienced these movies, and yet he has no remorse, no ability to understand the emotional depth of these movies, or the creator of these movies dying. It means nothing to him. Nothing. It's something to be gleeful about.
He was happy.
Yeah.
And the tweet, he thought it was a joke. He thought it was a joke that everybody would love, right? Like everybody would love this joke. Yeah, he died of Trump derangement syndrome. Someone probably murdered him because of that, because he hated me and he had a crippled brain, and he was a struggling former excellent movie producer who's fell on hard times. None of that is true. None of that is true. He was stabbed by his son who had addiction issues, as it was his wife. If you want the truth, here's the truth. What happened makes Donald Trump's Truth Social tweet even worse. His son came up behind his dad and mom and slit their throats, and Donald Trump was laughing about it. He's laughing about it. It's fucking Christmas, dude. One of the most legendary human beings Hollywood has ever seen was murdered by his drug addicted son, along with his wife. And he's laughing about it, as you point out, gleefully pointing out, lying about what it was that was the cause of death, thinks it's a funny joke. Thinks it's a funny joke. That is the president of the United States. Now, I've seen a lot of really shitty things from Donald Trump. This is the shittiest. And if people around him aren't going, we're going to get crushed in the midterms, this is not going to help. And by the way, that's insanity. He has a diagnosis of dementia that he's hiding from everybody, and this is how it comes out. This is disinhibition at its finest. It is 1 and 1A when it comes to the symptoms of dementia, and he's hiding his dementia diagnosis. Is that when you have dementia, you become nasty, mean, and that filter that you had is gone. Not that he ever really had a filter, but version 1, 2016 to 2020, you could see him try and keep a bottle on it. Like he tried to keep a cap. He is absolutely off the chain with dementia, disinhibition, and the worst version of that man, which is the worst version of any man you will ever meet, according to every metric, whether it's the rape, whether it's the pedophilia, whether it's the theft, whether it is the 26 documented sexual assaults of women, whether it was his decades-long friendship and helping Jeffrey Epstein run the Epstein files and his pedophilic sex trafficking cover-up. I mean, he is the worst of all of us and needs to be taken out of the Oval Office in a straitjacket with clasps behind his back and heavily medicated, put in a home so he can shit himself to death. That is what Donald Trump needs, and someone around him needs to do it now.
Absolutely.
Now.
So well said. Just looking at the pictures here outside the Brentwood mansion right now, someone that's coming by to pay their respects. I couldn't recognize a face. Maybe you can when he turns around. But what we're dealing with here is a failure of leadership on a grand scale. We've not had a leader in America that's failed to recognize even the issue, never mind offering a solution that doesn't work. This is failing to recognize the very issue that's at stake here, which is drug addiction, which was a big platform for him, actually, in his elections. And he's refusing to recognize drug addiction, refusing to recognize homelessness and the mental health plight of so many Americans. And that is why Rob Reiner is age 78, Michelle Singer Reiner, dead inside this Brentwood home, killed by their son, Nick Reiner, yesterday. Let's move on to the number 4 story on the countdown today, which is all about another tragedy. Unfortunately, this one is about Bondi Beach, where 16 people are now confirmed dead after the Hanukkah massacre there. A father and son opened fire at the Hanukkah celebration on Sydney's Bondi Beach yesterday, killing 16 people in Australia's deadliest mass shooting since Port Arthur in 1996. The gunmen have been identified as Sajid Akram, 50, and his son, Naveed, 24. Police shot and killed the father at the scene. The son is in custody in critical condition. Victims include a 10-year-old girl, a rabbi, and Holocaust survivor, Alex Kleitman, who died shielding his wife from bullets. Reports indicate the attackers possessed an ISIS flag. A hero has emerged, the owner of a fruit shop nearby, Ahmed Al-Ahmad, a 43-year-old Muslim man whose parents are Syrian refugees. He tackled one of the gunmen and wrestled away the weapon, although he himself was shot.
After he was shot twice.
Yeah. This is you know, I don't know. Such a tragedy on Hanukkah of all days. And you know, I want to just grieve for these people because we have to grieve for the losses there, and there's so many.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more going on here. You know, when you have someone like Benjamin Netanyahu deciding to, instead of, acknowledging the grief in the way that you normally would, again, just like Donald Trump, he's so out of touch.
Weaponized it. Yeah.
He goes and attacks the Australian Prime Minister for saying he's not hard enough on anti-Semitism and hasn't been doing enough about anti-Semitism. It's as if like he ignores the fact that he lit this fire of anti-Semitism in Gaza that we are now seeing spread around the world. That's Bibi Netanyahu who did that.
Mhm.
Why we're seeing this rising tide of anti-Semitism is not the fault of the Australian Prime Minister or the Canadian Prime Minister or anybody else. It's because of Bibi Netanyahu's attempt to convince genocide, basically, in Gaza. And that is why you're getting these reactions. I'm not excusing any of this. Of course, it's horrific. It's horrific on every level. But the fact that we have these leaders that are, it just occurred to me the other day that if we don't have democracy and we don't have people who are representative of the people's wishes running these countries, this is what you get. You get this mayhem and descent into chaos. And this is what it feels like right now in America and the world. Just like chaos everywhere. People are killing each other because they hate each other, but they don't even remember why. And, the why is really important in all these cases.
It's first of all, just absolute. I don't pray, but if I did, all my prayers to the Jewish community in Australia that was celebrating Hanukkah on Bondi Beach. When it's kind of started to happen yesterday, all of the narrative started. I mean, it was still ongoing at one point when I watched not just Netanyahu, but other world leaders, other political leaders here in Canada, specifically from the Maple MAGA party, the Conservative Party. They're just Maple MAGA. They're like a knockoff of MAGA in the United States. Go after Mark Carney for what happened in Australia. Jewish leaders going after the Prime Minister of Canada, saying that you've caused this. I mean, literally, going after every world leader of a democratic country, saying you didn't do enough to stop these protests of Gazans or people protesting genocide. And to your point, can't hide from the visuals. Sure pissed a lot of people off. Genocide of women and children in a country that has been an open air prison for a very long time. You cannot turn that off. That affects people. No excuse for murdering anybody. I don't care who you are or where you are. There is no excuse to pick up a gun and go and shoot people because of what they believe. There's no excuse. None. And I watched the weaponization of it by people in the Jewish community, faith leaders in the Jewish community here in Canada, shine a bright light on Mark Carney, saying what happened in Australia is going to happen here. It's because of you. It's because of you. And then I watched Netanyahu, basically the same thing. Go after people of an entire faith base, go after the Prime Minister of Australia, who is nowhere near Bondi Beach, who is a progressive, very, very thoughtful man, Anthony Albanese. And it's starting again. The weaponization of pure tragedy, where you had human beings get picked off by a couple of assholes with long-range weapons on a beach as they're celebrating Hanukkah, Christmas, Jewish Christmas. They're celebrating. And these two sick bastards go out and shoot people. Now, we can blame drug addiction for the death of Rob Reiner, but you can also blame that mass shooting on the same kind of rhetoric that Donald Trump put out about Rob Reiner, that Netanyahu continues to repeat, calling everybody anti-Semitic. World leaders don't do enough, so a bunch of Jewish people got shot. I'm of the firm opinion that what happened in Australia is because two very sick bastards grabbed their guns because they're sick in the head as well. They're in a cult, and they went and shot people in another cult that they think they don't like. That's what happened yesterday. You would get into the radicalization conversation? Sure,
I wouldn't call the
absolutely.
Jewish religion a cult. I mean, I think that's not really fair.
No, to them,
yeah.
that's how they look at it,
Yeah.
right? Oh, we have to kill them. They're in a cult. They're trying to kill us. No. Jewish people, it's absolutely not a cult. It's if you're Jewish, you're from Israel. You're Israeli. You come from that heritage. That's a place in the world. That's who you are.
It's just a religion that is the basis of what is a nation that sort of exists across borders, and it's. This I understand the Jewish community because I'm Jewish, of course, myself. I understand the need to protect ourselves and be concerned about, but this defense of anti-Semitism is so heightened in this time that it's almost I don't even know how to put this effectively, but it almost becomes it worsens the situation, doesn't help the situation. It puts us Jewish people in a defensive position. It puts us in a ghetto, really, of our own making in some ways. We don't spread ourselves into the community. We don't do the things we used to do, where we're more integrated into society. We become politically extremist ourselves because of the political extremism that's being foiled on us or put on us. So we become who we don't want to be. We become the worst types of people by being so extremist in our reaction. We have to reach across America. We have to reach across faith. We have to reach across racial lines. This country is being polarized by outside forces that are busy psychologically tampering with every single American out there. I mean, we're just constantly bombarded by these polarizing messages that are crippling us, that are just turning us against each other. And this anti-Semitism, Jewish hatred thing is another one of those polarizations that we don't suspect, we know is being heightened by people like Elon Musk and X, and by Donald Trump's campaign that Elon Musk funded for $250 million during the election last year. These are the forces that we're grappling with that are causing us to fight against each other, to hate each other. And we need to move beyond that. We really need. You talk about Donald Trump needs to be removed from power. Elon Musk needs to be removed from power. These people are toxic to America. The entire MAGA movement, which seems to be falling apart as we speak, needs to be thrown out of power right now.
Yeah, and you know what? I love doing a show with you when you weigh in on this because you are Jewish. You have family that are very war weary, that live in Tel Aviv, that live in Israel, who've heard the rhetoric. And Benjamin Netanyahu, I've said this many times, is to the Israeli people, is to Jewish people what Donald Trump is to Americans. It's just this complete misrepresentation of who they are. Beautiful people, many, many Jewish friends. We've had lots of conversations about the targeted hatred of the Jewish community here in Canada. Just to give you some statistics, 70% of all hate crimes and hate rhetoric in Canada are directed at one group, and they're Jewish. 70%. So if you got 100% of hate crimes, right? 70% are literally targeting less than 1% of Canada's population. So why? Where does that come from? It's a learned behavior. It is something that has been ingrained in people. It is something that I can tell you this, that Benjamin Netanyahu does not mind, because then he gets to weaponize anti-Semitism. Anybody has an issue with anything that happens to a Jewish person, and you blame his rhetoric, he then calls you anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump did the exact same thing. I mean, it is a playbook. This is a formula. Donald Trump did the exact same thing with the Afghan man that shot 2 National Guard members.
Yeah.
Later found out the man was extremely mentally unwell, really angry at the CIA for promising him something that he didn't get, drove from Washington to the United States, shot a couple of National Guard members. What does Donald Trump do? He stops, pauses asylum for over 1 million people from different countries that are trying to get into Canada. And that is intentional. It happened again after this tragic shooting of people at a Hanukkah beach party in Bondi Beach, but this time Netanyahu did it, is how can we take tragedy being visited upon our people and completely remove the humanity from it, turn it into a weapon, and point that weapon back at groups of people that we want to hurt. And that's the formula. That is what they do. That is what Trump does. That is what Netanyahu is doing. And what's lost in all that is the humanity, the sea of blood and individuals crying, doing chest compressions on Bondi Beach, where dozens of people got shot. And we're not going to talk about that humanity. What we're going to talk about is the politics of it today. We're going to talk about the assault on the Jewish community by two psychotic Muslim extremists. And we're going to blame Anthony Albanese for it because it politically helps Benjamin Netanyahu. He hasn't said anything about the victims yet. Donald Trump hasn't said anything about the victims in Bondi Beach.
He's the victim, he thinks.
Donald Trump, case in point, Brown University. This weekend, there was an active shooter at large for over 24 hours. Not only did they not get the right guy, he's still at large, by the way.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was asked about it at his Christmas party, and he's like, yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, whatever, it just happens. Sometimes stuff happens. 2 people are dead, and the only person they're talking about in the news today is the white woman, the white Christian woman who was killed, not the 19-year-old Muslim man who was shot at Brown University. It is the same playbook every single time. How do we feed chum to a group of angry white people who hate other people? How do we inflame tensions between the Jewish community, the Muslim community? How do we blame everybody else for something that we are actively doing and encouraging by our rhetoric, our lies, and our gaslighting? How do we do that? Now, this is not new to politics. This happens all the time. But we're smarter in 2025. We have the ability to watch things with our eyes online. We can bring up videos and we can give you the truth. We're not suckered into a funnel of just, little bits and pieces of information coming from one news source. You get it all. And you know what they're not talking about when it comes to the Bondi Beach shooting?
What?
You pointed it out. Is the 42-year-old Muslim man who was shot twice, who left his fruit stand after he got shot and tackled the son, beating the shit out of him in the process, holding him at gunpoint until police could grab him. That man was a Muslim. Nobody's talking about that. Benjamin Netanyahu isn't saying a fucking word about that.
It's so important that man, Ahmed al-Ahmed, is noticed here because it did, it puts a lie to this notion that all Muslims hate Jews and then all Jews hate Muslims. It's not that at all. We know that. The reason why there's rising anti-Semitism right now is because we had a guy named Elon Musk, doing the Sig Heil at the president's inauguration. The reason we have that kind of rising anti-Semitism is because they've taken all the filters out that stopped Nazi sentiment from appearing on social media. It used to be, not that long ago, verboten to go and do these things, to mention Nazi things. You weren't allowed to do that in polite society. We did not accept it as being acceptable. But suddenly, because of Donald Trump, best friends with Bibi Netanyahu, and Elon Musk, best friends with Bibi Netanyahu, we're now allowed to be as anti-Semitic as we want to be online. We're allowed to bring out all the hatred and all the worst kinds of identity politics that we hate so much. We're allowed to let that grow and breed more anti-Semitism in America. That's the world that these people, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, are creating for us. And Bibi Netanyahu, for that matter.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Head on a swivel, everybody.
Yeah.
You got to recognize the formula, and you can't buy into it. And you got to celebrate people like the Muslim hero that stopped the shooting. You have to. And you have to tell those stories loud, and you got to forward this stuff, and you got to share these kinds of podcasts with people, the Substack. You got to subscribe. You got to share it. You got to like it so it gets to the top of the algorithm. It's really important that these conversations get amplified because that's how we bring the heat down. We don't sit and paint different groups of people with the same hateful brush and say it's them. Let's go get them. We don't do that. We don't do that. We're smarter than them. We're better than them. And not buying into it means you have to have an active role in pushing back against it with real information. So make sure you try and do that over the next few days, because we're going to see a glut of that bullshit on social media.
I can't believe it's 7 minutes to the end of the show, which is we're not going to be able to fit all these in, but we can try unless you've got to. Unless we can go over a little bit, let's get into number 3. After nearly 4 years of war, Ukraine is giving up on the idea of NATO membership. President Zelensky announced in Berlin yesterday, ahead of talks with Trump's envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, that Ukraine will accept security guarantees instead of NATO's Article 5 protection. This was Putin's number 1 demand before and during the invasion: no NATO for Ukraine. And Zelensky called it already a compromise on our part after some US and European partners refused to support membership. This is the death knell of NATO. What we're seeing now is a Russian orchestrated success story, really. They are getting to defeat NATO without even firing a single shot against NATO forces in Europe. This is a tragedy, what's going on. The fact that Donald Trump has been able to, push all our European allies away, and at the same time that Zelensky is just, dismissing this notion of NATO like it's irrelevant now, tells you a lot about what America has done and what Donald Trump has done to America's standing in the world, that we are reviled the world over by everybody. There's not a single person in the world who thinks, oh, great, Donald Trump in America, what a great leader he is. Not a single person thinks that. They're all completely reviled by America right now, doing everything they can to dismiss it.
I was shocked to read that. I was shocked to read that Ukraine would be willing to sign off on ever joining NATO, knowing that NATO desperately needs Ukraine more than Ukraine needs NATO. And you would have thought that there would have been a bigger push. I get the desire to want to end hostilities. There is no security guarantee that Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin can put their name on that they will stick to, by the way. There will be no security guarantees. It will just be a lying, fake bullshit document. That lying, fake bullshit document will then not be adhered to. And what amazes me is, about a week ago, it was a sneaky little story that we put out 4 or 5 days ago, but it broke about a week ago and nobody paid attention to it. Going back to our original conversation, which is nobody's talking about the shit that needs to be talked about. Donald Trump sent a letter to the EU and he effectively said, hey, by the way, we're out of Europe in 2027. So get while the getting's good. And the United States is now going to move all of our assets from the EU, which we have tried to successfully, the United States successfully moved assets in and around Europe for this very reason, for the last 80 years. And now what they're saying in D-Day is not only is Ukraine not going to join NATO, and the United States pushed that for, as you point out, Vladimir Putin. They also told all those EU countries that we're no longer going to be interested in the defense of the European Union. So 2 things, right? He's killing NATO. He's destroying his relationship with every democratic EU country. And let's add a third on there. He's also bringing all of that hardware back to the United States, which will take 3 to 5 years, by the way. So why is he bringing all that hardware back from Europe to the United States? What does he need it for? What does he need it for? Does he need it for Canada? Does he need it for Greenland? Does he need it for Panama? Does he need it for Mexico?
All of the above. I don't
Does
know.
he need it for Costa Rica? Does he need it for Venezuela? Does he need it for Chile? Does he need it because he's going to go to war with the North Americans and the South Americans? While over in Russia, Vladimir Putin gets to restock his army, right? There's a change in the environment if there is some kind of peace deal. And then he gets to go to war with anybody because NATO is now no longer going to come and help. And the EU has been told Donald Trump is not interested in having the United States act as the security guard for all of Europe, which we have for 80 to 85 years. It's the death of the United States. It's the death of NATO. That's exactly what we're talking about. And it's some of the saddest shit ever.
European leaders are saying just that. It's the end of the era of Pax Americana. America's been leading the world and leading democratic change around the world for 80 years. And this man, Donald Trump, is busy destroying.
Wrecked it in 11 months.
Yeah, in 11 months. Unbelievable. Really stunning. The number is 2 story speaking about wrecking America. 22 million Americans are about to see their health insurance premiums double when ACA enhances subsidies expired this December the 31st. So today is the enrollment deadline for coverage starting January the 1st, and people are signing up without knowing what they will actually owe. Congress is deadlocked. The Senate tried twice last week and failed. The House GOP plan doesn't extend subsidies at all. Average enrollees will pay $1,016 more per year. 4 million could lose coverage entirely. At the same time, NBC polling shows Trump's approval is underwater as he nears year's end, with erosion among his own MAGA base specifically. His handling of the Epstein files, the number one issue that is causing him to lose support.
Mm.
It's this tragedy that's happening January the 1st.
Yeah. What do you say? Listen, and I blame everybody. I blame everybody. I blame Democrats for allowing him to do this. I blame Republicans for allowing him to do this. I blame everybody around him that's allowed him to do this. You're going to watch 22 million people get assessed somewhere between 5 to 6 times what their original premiums were and not have a choice in the matter. So now they got to make hard decisions. A lot of families that have enjoyed having access to very expensive health care at a price that they can afford, right? For well over a decade. And he's just going to let that lapse, and he's just going to let his insurance donors charge anybody whatever they want. If they can't afford it, screw you. There were 712,000 medical bankruptcies in the United States last year.
Unbelievable.
712. You're going to look at well over 1 million. You're going to look at a lot of dead people who can't afford health care, so they simply didn't get it and they died in their houses. You're going to look at a lot of people that can't afford food, families that break up because grandpa had a heart attack, son broke his leg, just don't have access to health care in the United States anymore.
What about all the addiction treatments, going back to the first story that we started with today? Like, what about all the people using mental health treatments courtesy of the ASA?
It's over.
This is such an attack on the average American person. It's horrific. And we're going to see that impact. We've felt it's coming. We see the MAGA support rate declining. But wait until these ACA cuts hit red states. They're going to start feeling the hurt in a way that is indescribable, and America is going to be hurt in a bad way. The number one story on the countdown today, you mentioned this earlier, the manhunt for the Brown University shooter enters its 3rd day with investigators back to square one. FBI Director Kash Patel under fire for prematurely touting the capture of suspect who was then released without charges. This is the same thing he did with Charlie Kirk. Patel posted a lengthy X update crediting the FBI with locating and detaining a person of interest, describing the manhunt as an all-out 24/7 campaign. Hours later, Rhode Island authorities released that person, with AG Peter Nerona saying evidence now points in a different direction. This mirrors Patel's earlier screw-up we told you about with Charlie Kirk.
Did you hear about the timeline? Brown University, there's an active shooter, a couple people get shot, whole university goes on lockdown. So sad. And within, 20 minutes, Kash Patel starts tweeting about it. We're going to find this guy. We're going to find this asshole. We're going to get him, the full weight of the FBI, blah, 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 blah. About an hour later, they say, we got him. Like you should point out, long, stupid post about how awesome he is at his job and he's going to protect America. Within 40 minutes, Providence, Rhode Island police were like, excuse me, sir, FBI Director Kash Patel, it's not our guy. It's not the guy. They go, he literally said to the officer on the other end of the phone, this, I just watched this today. He's like, but that's your guy. And they're like, no, Director Patel, this is not, you caught the wrong guy. It's not the guy. It's not the shooter. He's got an alibi. We got him on camera, different place. It's not our guy. Got to release him. And he goes, no, that's your guy. Charge him. And they're like, no, we can't do it.
It doesn't work like that.
It
doesn't work like that, Kash. It's not because your podcaster conspiracy brain decided that this is the case that he gets to get arrested. It's such bullshit. It's such, it's such a joke.
It makes you wonder about every other mass shooter, white mass shooter, Kash Patel has magically shown up on the scene for, said the FBI is going to take care of business, TCOB. And then we never hear from that person again, but they've assessed that that's the person, number one. Whether it's this Tyler kid that shot Charlie Kirk or the ICE shooter in Texas, doesn't matter. It makes you wonder how guilty those guys are when they're willing to just go and find a guy, take credit for it, and try to force Providence, Rhode Island police to charge the guy who had nothing to do with murdering anybody at Brown University.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Can Santa see in the dark? Does he wear night vision goggles that make everything green? I bet he'd like that because Santa likes green. Or heat vision goggles because he might like red better. Should we leave out carrots, not cookies, on Christmas Eve, since they're good for his eyesight? No. The twinkling lights on the tree will make enough light for Santa to see, tiptoeing past chairs without bumping his knee, to leave a present or two or three, and get a kiss from the dog, if it's a dog that licks, and take a cookie or two or three, and then leave. Santa goes up the chimney the same way he comes down.
Oh my God.
And I have no idea how Santa does that. But I'm so glad he can. Can Santa see?
The First Lady, ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of America, there, Santa.
The dog leaks, and Santa needs a kiss.
Can't even read a children's book. I mean,
I put something out about that today.
Yeah.
She's allegedly fluent in 7 languages.
Mm.
English
Fluent?
is clearly not one of those languages.
Yeah.
She's been here for 30 years. Still can't speak the fucking
First
language.
Lady, she should try to speak English. I mean, it's just, shouldn't she? I mean, I don't know. It seems to make sense.
Jesus Christ.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. And the whole thing, it looks like it's written like by Russian propagandists. The whole decoration, everything looks like I'm sitting and watching something in the fucking Kremlin. It's like it doesn't look like America.
It ain't. It ain't. That's a White House book reading.
Yeah.
Melania Trump doing her best to read a book. What a joke. America, you have officially become a joke.
Yeah.
That's a joke. I mean, she's a joke. The president of the United States is a joke. She's a former Epstein hooker reading a book to children. Like that's what you get. Who can't fucking speak.
Well, when you put it that way, you know.
Hey, you want to know the truth? The president of the United States is a pedophile, rapist, money launderer for the Russian mob, and his Epstein Russian imported hooker wife is reading kids' books in the White House. That is the state of America today. Thank you for joining us for the 5-stack, everybody. Sorry it was a little dark at the start, but nice to end with some humor. Don't forget, you can get everything my friend Zev Shalev does, including his latest, greatest heist series over at narrative.org. Make sure you go there today. His morning newsletter is excellent as well. Just started that. Everybody needs to pay attention to Zev. Go and give him a follow at narrative.org. I'm at deanblundell.substack.com. You can watch that incredible video we just watched.
Thankful for you to bring that to me because, you know, I was looking at this rundown today. I was like, oh my God, are we really going to talk about this? Death. And then, you know, my Dean sends me all the videos that he wants to play. And there was this thing came up in my messages today. And I was like, that is just what we need for today. We just need Melania Trump doing Dr. Seuss's Christmas at the White House.
Should we leave the carrots for the Santa or maybe the cookies?
Santa coming down the chimney. I mean, it's... You know, you want to watch the whole video, Dean Blundell has it at deanblundell.substack.com, plus a whole lot of other really great news, and not great news, but really well-told news. And what I love about it is your coverage of what's going on with Europe and with NATO and with America's positioning against Europe is top-notch. Everyone should really check out Dean's coverage of that, plus a whole lot of other brilliant things that you have available on your site, which is currently still on discount, 25% off, I think, for the month.
25% off annual subscriptions, folks. So grateful that you're all here. So grateful that you spend time with us. Really grateful for all of our paid subs. You make it so easy. Love seeing you in the chat. You make our lives better, specifically around Christmas time. I know we're kind of running into, I don't know what our schedule is going to be like. I think we're going to take a couple days off over Christmas, but you've given us the greatest gift, Zev and I. Every day you come here, thousands of people now, thousands. I used to do the number. Remember, it was like, okay, we got 300 people here. A lot of people. Okay, today we got 400. We got thousands and thousands of people watching right now. And the reason why is because we are you and we love you. And this is never about us. This is always about you, but you continue to fill our cups. You continue to subscribe. You continue to make this our job. And it is the greatest honor of my lifetime, no matter how dark it was and fun it was at the end. Being able to spend this time with you every single day, being able to be part of your life every single day, and the fact that you have changed our lives so immeasurably and continue to do so, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to let you down. I promise you that. We're going to continue to do the work, and that work is this work, and that work is for you because we are you. So thank you very much for joining the 5-Stack today. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock, right, Zev?
Absolutely. That's the 5-Stack. It's Monday, December the 8th to 15th, 2025. Have a good one, everybody.